Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rouge Rugby podcast. I'm Stu Hardy, and I'm joined, as always, by Derek Brissett. Derek, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It sounds a little weird not hearing Dan do that, but I guess this is it, man. This is welcome to the post Dan era.
Yeah, this is the future now, I'm afraid. But
is this tryouts right now? Like, are we done? Do I get to do the intro next week, and we kind of get to see who's better? Or is this?
Yeah, we'll do a Facebook poll or something like that, and we'll see how the viewers who they want to go with in the long term. But of course, if you are a fan of Dan, he's gone only temporarily. We are saying that he will be back for a few guest appearances. He obviously has other responsibilities at the moment. His D&D campaign mainly, and also that thing about his wife being pregnant. I don't know.
But anyway, I think, in all honesty, it probably has more to do with the D&D campaign.
Yeah, but you don't say that out loud.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. It's tough to do some adventuring when you got to worry about recording a rugby podcast, right? So,
oh please, this is a curling podcast disguised as a rugby podcast.
Yeah, you know what? You know what's great? What is kind of great about this? We don't have to talk about curling ever again.
We don't have. We will, but we don't have to.
I mean, we probably will. Yeah, we don't. I suppose we never had to begin with. Why would we talk about curling? Except, I don't know. Do you watch curling to bring it up ever?
I don't, but I know that Dan is a fan of it. And next time we can do a bit of research on curling, and next time Dan's on as a guest, we'll be able to bring it up and appear knowledgeable about the fact.
Yeah, what are other sports that you're into? What other sports can we shoehorn into this podcast now that Dan's gone?
We can always bring up Formula One, which
Formula One. Okay. I've seen a season of Drive to Survive. Does that get me by on enough Formula One?
Yeah, I think if you watch the latest season, you'll be okay.
No, I've said I've seen one season, not the latest season. I've seen.
Well, that's your research that you have to do for the next week.
Lewis Hamilton is still good, yet nobody likes him. Is that?
He's still good, and I think he does have a great following, especially in the United States. He's got a big.
I thought nobody liked him for some reason.
Well, it's like when it's like winning all the time, you just get bored of whoever's on top.
Oh, he's regardless. Tom Brady.
He's a Tom Brady. He's a John Cena of Formula One. He's unstoppable. Great driver, but
Lewis. So to beat John Cena of Formula One, does that mean Lewis Hamilton is showing up in DC movies soon?
Well, I can't guarantee anything, but
Speed Racer. You should play Speed Racer. Live action Speed Racer. I think they did that
again. We're doing anything but rugby.
Exactly. Oh, there we go.
Right, we've got
Dan
a lot.
Did help keep us on track.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of keeping on track,
10, but he did help keep us on track.
Okay. Speaking of keeping on track, we have a lot of news to cover. We have some news coming from MLR. We have big news coming out of BC in both internationally and domestically, but we're going to start off in Toronto, and we have some good news for all the Arrows fans out there. If you have been jonesing even to see your team play in Toronto again, your wait is coming to an end, because the Arrows have announced that on October the 16th at York Lions Stadium, they will be hosting the Rugby Rally. This will be a Arrows 15 versus Atlantic Selects. This will be the first game in 867 days since their last match in Toronto, obviously the drop goal game. And tickets are on sale now for as little as $10 per person. But there is a caveat. We did say it was an Arrows 15. Many players won't be available due to international duty. This will be the weekend after the America's 2 playoff. Between Canada and Chile. So, with the big names missing, Derek, who would you like to see play for the Arrows 15?
Anybody. It's kind of a joke answer, but yeah, it's exciting to get some Arrows rugby back in Toronto. Why does 867 days sound so much longer than 2 years?
Oh, because COVID made time.
Yeah, but just the number 867, just I don't know. Maybe it's because it sounds so much longer than what 2 years is.
Well, it is technically longer than 2 years. So
yeah, it's 2.5 years, I guess, really. And either way, back to your original question. I mean, I think a game like this is a good chance for Mark Winokur and the staff to just kind of evaluate talent, right? you have, because a big part of what I believe what they said in the press release was that it's going to be a mix of some of the guys that are on the senior roster and academy guys, right? So I think you got to be thinking, one, if you're like an academy guy, it's a chance to maybe, put your hand up, make a good impression, and potentially maybe, you know, kind of put yourself into maybe consideration of moving up to the big club but before the season starts. And I think for other guys too, like it's, there's a lot of guys that maybe didn't get that much playing time during the 2021 season for a variety of reasons, whether it's selection or injury. I'm looking at, like, kind of just looking at it, it's like if a guy like Marcello Wainwright is healthy, I'd love to see him play. If he's recovered from his injury and is good to go, I think that would be the type of guy I would love to see play. I'd love to see a little bit more of Kobe Fost. Made a couple appearances at the end of the year. I think that would be great. You have a couple guys too, like Mark Antoine Ouellette, Chris Atkinson, Alexander John Lynn, that, again, they kind of arrived late in the season. Didn't always necessarily get into a whole lot of games, but if you're on the squad, I think this is a good chance to kind of make an impression, especially when you have, like, especially for like some of those front row guys, knowing that, like, Cole Keith, Quatrin, they're all going to be they're likely not there. Even there's, kind of go down like the roster and stuff too. It's like guys like I mean, again, if available, if they're healthy again and stuff, right? Like maybe a guy like Jamie McKenzie, that might be cool to see him play again. If he's able to, of course.
If not, he'll be doing the commentary for TSN.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So it's like if you're kind of looking at actually, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, he could, what? Have him play, but mic him up, because
that's a good compromise. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, that could be fun. Give them mic up a bunch of guys. That could be fun for the game. But actually, I was just, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, right? If you kind of look at the Arrows, the actual Arrows roster, right? You're probably going to have Brody and Higgins away at the with the international team, which I mean will probably leave you with Andrew Ferguson and maybe an academy guy. Get an academy guy in there. Some little bit of scrum half and stuff too. Same with like depending on where in the world guys like Sam Malcolm actually are at the moment, right? That might, you might be able to oh my gosh, I totally, now that I've said a fly half, Logan Martin Feek, the draft picks, Bryce Warden.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Samuel Mace, get those guys in. Now that I said fly half, and now I'm like, oh yeah, right. There's all these guys that we, draft, because it'd be like the first time, I'm sure, it's kind of great in the past month to see like all the other rugby in Ontario opening back up, right? So like Mace has been playing for like the GGs, who look like they're off to a pretty good start on their campaign. So, it's nice to see that, guys are being able to get back on the pitch. Obviously, Rugby Ontario has started back up. They're doing like a Marshall fall season, which is great to see. It's just, I mean, how much fun would that have been to just, be able to play the first game back after 2 years, right? Just for, not even for the high performance guys, but for those guys that just want to play like, play on like the third team and have some fun, right? Like it's nice to see that, clubs are being able to start back up and are being able to play again. But yeah, so like, I think if as an Arrows fan, I'd be like, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, the most intriguing guys are definitely probably the draft picks.
Yeah,
I would love to see all of them play. And then, like a couple guys that, got hurt and stuff, like it would be nice to see them just to be able to get some game time, I think, right? If guys that have, if they, recovering from injuries and stuff, if guys are able to play, of course, coming off an injury, right? Like that was obviously going to be up to the team's judgment on whether that's beneficial for them to play now or just, keep resting until the season starts. But honestly, like anybody too, man. And then like, it'd be nice to see some of the next guys up too. Like it'd be cool to, Mitch Richardson obviously got a lot more playing time, but with the fact that again, the international roster, Lesage and Jones won't be there. So that's, another chance you can kind of get some new centers in there. Richardson can be one of them. Again, bring up an academy guy. However, that, system ends up shaking out. You can try some new combinations, check out some of the new players and stuff. Maybe don't even go with a 23, maybe kind of go with one of those, like,
like the boosted benches.
Sorry, like a bigger squad or something. Similarly to like, the Atlantic selects, I mean, if there's some guys out, out on the, in the Maritimes out there that are, or I guess the Atlantic selects is going to include Quebec, so that's not necessarily Maritimes, but
yeah. So about that, the Atlantic selects are poised to feature top regional players from the Maritimes, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Quebec. So it's not really like Atlantic, more of
it's the Rock,
anywhere east of
it's
Ontario.
It kind of sounds like the old, like the Rock.
Well, that is actually something that's featured in the press release, is that building off the great Blues Rock regional rivalry from the days of the CRC. We know the Atlantic selects will come to Toronto motivated and hungry to renew friendly hostilities. While also speaking of players, just want to point out the list of players that probably won't be there. So as you mentioned,
just Ross, based on international duty,
just based on international duty at the moment. So these are the ones I'm gonna say are like definitely not going to be there in a playing capacity. Is Brody, Mason Flesh, Higgins, as you mentioned as well, Spencer Jones, Cole Keith, Will Kelly, Ben Lesage, Patrick Parfrey, Andrew Cotran, Tyler Rowland, Lucas Rumble, and Siaki Vikilani. Now, there is something that is mentioned in the press release, which I think will be interesting to any Arrows fans, is that activities include a pre-match autograph signing by Arrows players. That's why I'm saying not in a playing capacity. Mm-hmm. A live DJ, an inflatable fan zone for kids, and a very special announcement at halftime. So that's why I'm saying get tickets, come along, get the big news before it, when it happens. But one thing I've got to mention is this is at a completely new ground. This is at York Lions Stadium. Now, if anyone was a fan of the Ontario Arrows before they joined MLR, they played one exhibition game at the venue. This was before the renovation works happened. It was, against the Glendale Raptors. They won that game, obviously, because they never lose to Glendale in Toronto. But York Lions Stadium has gone under redevelopment. So YLS did used to have an athletics track around it. That has now been removed. The pitch is now certified for both FIFA and World Rugby standards. And the best thing about it is that while this stadium is also being used by York United for the Canadian Premier League, there won't be any clashes. But if you want to see how good of a pitch this looks, just watch any of York United's game highlights, and you can see that this is a pristine pitch. And probably one of the big things that I know a lot of MLR fans have been fussing about, there won't be any extra lines. There won't be any like American football lines or lacrosse lines on this pitch. These lines are done fresh for every game, which means that this will be a pitch with rugby lines on it only. And I think that'll be they haven't released anything about this game being on TSN or on the Rugby Network as of this moment. But I would say if you're a fan and you want to get an experience of what York Lions Stadium could be, watch any of York United's matches or highlights on YouTube, and you'll get an experience as well. Speaking of which, there will be a full vaccination requirement upon entry, or a proof of a negative COVID-19 test will not be accepted for admittance, except for guests with a verified medical exemption. And it is recommended that you review the club's venue health and safety guidelines for further information regarding those kind of measures.
I don't believe that's much different than what every other pro sports team is doing at the moment, though.
So. That is true, but it's always good to
definitely, because it's, hopefully people don't show up with the thinking otherwise. Looking at, I'm excited about York Lions Stadium. It looks amazing.
Oh, it is.
As you said, Stu, like even just like looking at, I'm not a huge soccer fan, so I'm not going to sit here and say I watched a York United game because I haven't. But looking at some of the pictures of the games, though, the stadium does look unreal. Looking at like the pitch looks great. The seats look great. Actual proper chairs and stuff in the seat in the stadium, though. That's always nice. I'm assuming like the amenities and stuff in it are like it's brand new, state of the art professional soccer team built it. Like it's gonna
Yeah,
be,
it's a very nice stadium.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered is that obviously having a professional soccer team use the venue, it has to be to a certain standard. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, the
yeah.
CPL is kind of fascinating to me in that it is still relatively new, but it seems to be taken off quite a bit. We're getting, I think that's kind of like the interesting thing in Canada is we're kind of starting to get like, I mean, the CFL for the longest time was like the only all Canadian sports league, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like with the exception of a couple weird years in the 90s where they tried to expand to the United States, and then the Baltimore Stallions won the Grey Cup that one year, and it's really weird to see Baltimore written on the Grey Cup. But with the exception of that bizarre time,
Yeah.
it's the only reason that I know the city of Shreveport exists too, is because they had a CFL team. Do you know where Shreveport is?
Not a clue.
Yeah, me neither. I just remember Shreveport, the city somewhere in the southern United States. But it's so like that's the kind of been the only thing. But now it's like, yeah, like the CPL kind of started, and there's the Canadian Elite Basketball League is a thing that's now started up too. So it's kind of interesting to see some of the all Canadian pro sport leagues kind of popping up. But the interesting thing with having another soccer league, I guess, might be some stadium potential kind of opens up. I mean, we've one of those things that we have always kind of talked about is I think people in Canada definitely want a second MLR team in Canada. And whether or not that happens, who knows, whether or not that's going to happen soon or going to happen for the second team doesn't show up for another 30 years, who knows. But maybe maybe having a few more of these soccer teams building some state-of-the-art stadiums might could help a city's case later on. Who knows? Do you know what York Lions capacity is?
York Lions capacity is about 5,000 at the moment.
That's a good size. That's a good MLR size. I like.
Yeah. That's a good size, and that's only one side of the stadium. So obviously, if
it can get bigger,
if the CPL picks up and starts getting more fans,
but because they have room to.
On
the other side, right?
So they'll have room to put in temporary seating at least, but in the long term, maybe more permanent seating. We've yet to see. It's also
the stadium's not that old, right? Like it was built for the Pan Am games, was it?
Yeah, so it's like less than a decade old.
6 years old, yeah.
Yeah, and it's already been renovated.
It's already been renovated 6 years in, yeah.
And one of the other good things as well, it is near the Pioneer Village TTC station, which also has like a bus depot as well. If you're driving in, it's not far from the 400 or the 407 if you're taking the express line. But yeah, this after more than 2 years, the boys are coming home.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Absolutely. But this is the thing. This is not the first rugby game that will take place in Toronto, because that honor goes to the reformed Toronto Wolfpack.
Yes. So you wanted to bring this up.
Absolutely.
You went to the game. I did not go to the game. I still haven't seen the game. So I just have questions for you about this.
All right.
First, how was the game?
The game was first of all, to go back to Lamport Stadium and just watch any form of rugby was fantastic to watch. It was really great. So it was the Canada Cup, which was originally supposed to be between Toronto and Ottawa. Ottawa fell through and said DC Cavalry were the opposition instead. This was, although those three teams I mentioned, by the way, are all teams in the new North American Rugby League, which is set to start in 2022. And I've got to say,
pretty rocky start.
No, I was going to say, the more things change, the more things stay the same when it comes to the Wolfpack, because obviously this is a completely different Wolfpack team. I think for a lot of these guys, it was their first professional rugby league match they've ever played. But this was an absolutely fantastic. If you've seen the Wolfpack play before, back in 2019, they were putting in like giant scores. And if you were to look at this game, it would be the same. The final score, DC 6, Wolfpack 42.
So how would you like rate like the quality though, knowing that it's like, because every time, like, I haven't seen the game, so I'm not putting in like judgment or anything on the game because I haven't seen the game. But I'm like, I am kind of curious because like looking at some of the names, as you said, like, there's a lot of guys that have maybe, played rugby union where, at some of the upper, like, the Ontario union clubs, maybe haven't played league before. I saw like DC had a post saying it was like at the very least confirming one player to me publicly that was playing in their first ever rugby league game, like first ever game, amateur or professional. So I'm just like, I'm curious, is like, I don't know. I always felt like one of the, I guess, the draws of like the Wolfpack playing in like the UK system was that it was, even if it was like the third or the second division at the time, and eventually the Super League before that all fell to shambles. But it was like the draw was that it's a really good league, whereas this just kind of seems like it's from scratch. And as like, is it a like, did it feel like a bunch of guys playing like their first game, or does it like, how would you rate the quality? I don't want to like lead you with a question that maybe says I'm sounding negative, but
so I would say it's a very enjoyable game in that, especially for the home team, it was high scoring. But that also may give you like an idea of how the defense was. I would say if I was to compare it to anything, I compare it to the first season of MLR. As in like, you know that mistakes are going to be made, that there's going to be like knock-ons, there's going to be errors, there's going to be a lot of things that, you wouldn't really expect to find in, say, like the NRL, for example, or Super League, for example. But
well, I wasn't expecting it to be anywhere near that good.
But that's the thing. It was just enjoyable. And I think especially for anyone who was a fan of the Wolfpack, who had to endure the Super League fiasco, and as things went like from bad to worse because of COVID and all the other measures as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and plenty of other reasons why that went so.
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm not saying that COVID was the sole reason, but it sure as hell was a catalyst. But no, one thing that should be mentioned is that the Wolfpack have a partnership, like the Toronto Arrows, with Iroquois Rouge Rugby. And so when the came on for the anthems, before the Canadian anthem or even before the US anthem, the guy on the tannoy announced that, Toronto is built on the land of the people of the Mississaugas of the Credits. And then they played the anthem of, I'm going to say, one of the First Nations. I cannot remember which one it is. Megan or Melanie, can you please correct me in the comments below? But that was a really nice touch as well. And because of a shipping issue, the Wolfpack were actually playing in Iroquois Rouge Rugby kit. So they were in the black and purple, that's kind
of cool.
Which was really cool. They did have to tape up part of their arm, which had the Toronto Arrows logo. But
oh, did they?
Yeah, but ultimately it
really
was
funny.
It was really.
Tell?
Yeah, I could tell.
Oh, that's funny.
But I mean, like, if you were new to rugby league, you wouldn't know, or you could just say it's like, oh, it's an old sponsor, so we can't show it anymore. That's kind
of awkward. That's really awkward.
I think one of the best moments of the night was number 5, Stephen Adu, collected the kickoff and then ran 90 meters to score a try.
Nice.
That was the game is available on YouTube if you do some digging for it. Like I said, you can like skip through it. There are certain parts that need scrums and all that stuff. The refereeing, I'd say, was a bit iffy, but then again, I'm also not a big enough fan of rugby league to understand all the rules. So take it. Anyway, we've been focused on Ontario for too long. We need to fly out west. We need to talk about the big happenings going on in BC, because this weekend was the first of the 2 rounds of the HSBC World Sevens series, of only 2 rounds, both of which will be in Canada, and this was the Vancouver Sevens. So we have the result. First place was South Africa, or the Blitzbok. Second place was Kenya. Third was GB, and Canada was sixth. In the women's competition, GB won the women's Fast Four. Some amazing performances. If you go onto their social media page, you'll see Jasmine Joyce doing the greatest try-saving tackle you have ever seen in ensuring that a runaway try didn't happen. But no, yeah, I can see that there was a lot of enjoyable things. Now, of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room in that there are some significant absentees from this edition of the World Sevens series. So the following nations are all absent due to COVID-19. So Argentina, Australia, Fiji, France, Japan, New Zealand, and Samoa. So that's the defending world champions and the defending Olympic champions that aren't available for this competition. And instead we have teams like Chile, Mexico, and Jamaica. However, my counter is that you play the opponents in front of you. And if those guys are able to come along, fine. For Jamaica, this is their first entry into the World Sevens. And I think we kind of knew how it was going to go. But at the same time, I think it was, yeah, they, he scored a try, which was one of the big things of.
And they won a game. They beat Chile at the end.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. No, they fully won a game. They scored a couple tries.
Mexico actually replaced both the men's and women's, I believe, in the Fast Four as well. So again, that was a very last minute decision caused by France's decision not to come based on COVID-19 restrictions.
Yeah.
As in, like, again, it's one of those kind of things of like, the more things change, the more things. Oh, the Blitzbok won the entire tournament. What year is it? But with so I mean, obviously, there isn't as much to talk about in a sevens match as say in like a 15s match. But Derek, did you see any standout moments? Obviously, you just mentioned one, the fact that Jamaica won a game. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool. I mean, I know you're saying like, all these countries that didn't play, as you said, you just got to play the guys in front of you. But I mean, it's honestly, it's cool to see like Jamaica, Chile, Germany, Mexico. Like, it's cool to see these countries like, get a chance to play with, alongside teams like Great Britain and, USA, Canada, Kenya, right? Like Kenya had a real good showing at this, as you kind of mentioned.
Yeah. I'll be talking about one Kenyan player later, but
were you? I was gonna say there's is it Alvin Otunyo?
Oh, you know me so well.
Yeah, because I was gonna bring this up. I was gonna bring that up too. That dude's a monster. That was amazing.
You know what?
The one try that he scored against Spain, where he just got the ball flat-footed and just threw a guy across the try line and then scored, was amazing. That was amazing.
That is probably one of the most humbling things for that Spanish player in their life.
Sorry, did I say? Yeah.
No, yeah, Spain.
Yeah. So it was like, man, that's like, I was like, oh, dude, I feel bad. Like, I feel bad for you. Like, I felt embarrassed watching that happen. I don't know, he didn't throw me, but
yeah,
like,
but you could feel it, couldn't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh man, like you want to cheer, but then you're also like, dude, like that guy might have like kids that watch this game or something, and just that was mean. It was a mean try. I loved it. I think there's some really good tries in this tournament. There's that pretty sweet, like the little try highlight reel that the Sevens series put on their social media. That USA scored an unreal team try against Germany. They got the ball, maybe 5 meters out from their own line, and it was just like offloads, kicks, it was all the way to the other end. I think it was Schroeder that eventually finished it off, which was like, it was awesome. Jack Carson scored an unreal try against the United States for Canada. Phil Burno with a huge line break, some really nice fend. Like, it's and that gave Canada the lead in the 5th place game just before halftime. It's cool just to kind of hear like the eruption of the crowd and stuff again. And I think one of those things like sports kind of coming back, especially like in Canada with rugby recently, is just man, like how much you miss just like crowds. And
Yeah.
whenever Canada scored and you could kind of hear like the try coming in or like the sound that the stadium made when Canada was like running toward a try was amazing. I loved it. Um I thought too from like the men's, I thought Berna and Thiel did a great job captaining the team. They were both two of the best players on the squad, and they, kind of looked like they definitely took that lead by example, sort of approach to it. Also, they
Yeah.
have a podcast, so they're kind of part of the podcasting brethren. So I mean, got to give them a shout out. Um, and I thought Josiah Mora from the Canadian men's team, I thought he was unreal throughout the entire tournament. He had some great tries, really good on defense too, work rate kind of, he was all over the pitch throughout a lot of the matches, man. And he seemed like one of those guys that kind of just missed that Olympic team. But as we've spent the past like 3 episodes talking about how every single player on the Canadian
Yeah.
Sevens team, Harry Jones, did we mention Harry Jones last week, or did he retire after?
I think he retired between us recording and releasing.
Yeah, something like
yeah.
that. But yeah, it's like it feels like we've had to go like 4 or 5 like episodes in a row announcing that or talking about a Sevens player that's retired now. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity, I think, opening up. And I mean, Mora being one of those guys that looks like he was close to making that Olympic squad, but then ultimately didn't or whatever. But like seeing him in this tournament, it's like I think that's like going to be one of the the players of the future for the Canadian Sevens program. I liked watching his game. I liked what he brings to the table. So I'm kind of excited to see how he develops going forward.
Yeah, well, one thing I like, and it happened in the same game when it was Canada versus Germany, is Phil Berner finding the space to score the first try of the game. Like you think like the ball's going to go into touch. You think it's going to be a ball to chip through the line. It looks like Germany's just going to be able to hold out. But then Phil Berner snipes in, gets the ball, grounds it, and first try in home soil. So, first try in home soil of the tournament. So that's got to feel good. And then obviously it comes to the end of the match. Canada have it in the bag. It's 24-5. The clock's gone red, but Germany aren't done. They want to get in for this last try. And then John Dorr from Germany tries to do like the noble thing, give it to his friend to run in. But unfortunately for him, Anton Nagogo is in the way, grabs the ball, pins it down, and I feel really bad for John. But at the same time, why are you throwing it when you're in the try zone? And I don't know,
not usually a good decision.
Well,
sometimes it looks cool though.
It does look cool, but
if it works, it could look cool.
But you know what's cooler? Scoring the try,
yeah. That's what I said. If it works,
yeah,
it's kind of like that. It's almost kind of like the throwing the ball off the backboard dunk in basketball.
Yeah,
probably unnecessary, but if you get it, it looks cool.
Okay, well, that was the Vancouver Sevens. This coming Saturday will be the Edmonton Sevens, and whoever wins there will be
all the same countries.
All the same countries.
All the same countries, yeah.
All the same countries.
I suppose that makes a lot of sense.
And that will conclude the 2021 World Seven Series. So again, a big asterisk only having like 2 locations, but then the next Sevens event will then form part of the 21-22 Sevens program. And there's hoping that next year we can get the full Sevens event.
Like, it is kind of weird, and I mean, obviously, it is going to be the asterisk. I'm happy they're just playing something.
Oh God,
like, that's got it. Yeah, like that's great for just like the players. Like, I mean, we even did that. Like, I mean, the AFL club that I'm a part of in AF, like we were just like, there's not enough time to really do a full season, so we're just like, let's just play some games for.
Yeah, exactly.
We're like AFL Ontario's not putting like the trophy on the line or anything, especially since the champions are currently in Ottawa. So it's like they were like, I think that's a little logistically tough at the moment.
Yeah.
But like, and it was just like, but even at that though, it was just like we've played 4 games, and it's like, it's just fun to be able to play. Like, even if it's not necessarily for a whole lot, which is also why, like, one, it's great to see like Canada, the United States, South Africa, some of those big countries playing at this, but it's also like that's partly why it's fun to see like Jamaica and Chile,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Because you don't necessarily get that chance. And I mean, when it gets to the next season, Jamaica, Chile, they might not have that opportunity to play some of these games and
Exactly.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? So that's great to see. And it's like it's good to see like all the players across the board kind of getting their feet wet and being able to play games again.
Yeah.
They had I guess one of those stories that we didn't mention on USA Rugby. They had David Still, who's part of that Colorado crossover program, signed with the Gilgronis earlier this year too. And he's, I guess, he got onto a USA national team in like what, 7 months.
Yeah, that was something that was picked up on the
Yeah,
socials.
like I mean, hey man, I think we were critical of the program a little bit on the podcast when we first started, or at least I was. And I mean, hey, I guess you got a guy on the sevens team within 7 months. So
yeah, so,
I mean,
credit.
something's working.
Speaking of socials, something I just realized is that a lot of like the Canada highlights from the sevens were then put out by CBC Olympics. So if there's any fans that got into sevens through like the Tokyo games, they would be able to like continue finding it in like the same location.
Yeah, like
so I think that's great branding, great for the outreach of the sport in
100%
Canada.
agree. If you go to like CBC Sports.ca, the CBC Sports app, and I think CBC Gem, which in all honesty, probably the most underrated streaming service ever. But like all the Canada games are like chopped up on their own. So all the Canada games are broken down into like 20-minute videos or however long it took to play the game. But then you can still watch like the full tournament like on their on demand thing as of right now. I'm not sure how long that's going to be up for. Who knows? But like I feel like CBC sometimes, I mean, like obviously, that Canada game, we had that discussion about Premier Sports a couple episodes back. And still no announcement about where these games against Chile are gonna be shown in 2 weeks time here. But it's like I feel like one of the things like we never mentioned was CBC, which I feel like is like, again, I have, without having any business thing, but I feel like it's something that's kind of often overlooked. And sevens being an Olympic sport, it kind of falls under CBC's jurisdiction, right? So it's nice to see like a lot of the exposure ending up on CBC and a lot of the full time, the highlights and stuff. I think they chopped up the 2 gold medal games into small 20-minute ones too. So it's like it's nice. You can quickly go through, just watch all the Canada games if that's all you want to see, or you can watch the gold medal, whatever you want to do. There's some, I mean, if you need something to watch during this week and you're done crushing that Danbury Trashers documentary, you can go throw on some sevens.
Okay, well, we're going to be staying in British Columbia because a month or so ago we were talking about the Curry Cup, which would be a semi-pro competition organized by Mr. Curry Hitchborn, one of the guests that have been on the show when I wasn't here, but it is what it is. So it now has a official title. I mean, I was going to go with Curry Cup, but apparently South Africa wasn't okay with that.
Hey, they spell it differently.
I know.
I realized that after it was spelled differently. Maybe they could have got away with it. Maybe they didn't want to name it after a coach of one team.
Yeah, I suppose that is fair. Anyway, the new Coastal Cup is to begin this Saturday, September 25th. There are 7 teams involved. They are the Vancouver Island Crimson Tide, the Vancouver Wave, Van East Rugby, the Pacific Pride, the UBC Thunderbirds, the UVic Vikes, and the TW Spartans. It will be a round-robin format, so each team will play the other 6 once, and it'll be a table format with first place winning the cup. At the same time, you'll notice I mentioned that 3 university teams, they will be able to receive twice weekly high-level training sessions with the regional teams. And for the uni teams, the competition will also serve as a qualification tournament for the Canadian University Championship, with the top 2 university teams earning a spot in the national championship in the fall. Well, Curry mentioned it, we've brought it up later, and now it's actually happening. Derek, how important is a competition like this for bringing players into the professional environment and, bridging the gap between the amateur game and MLR or international level?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I mean, I liked what Curry had to say when he was talking about it when he was on our show. And I think, see, the thing is, it's like I think what you kind of said there is sort of the key thing, right? We're the bridging the gap. And I think there's a lot of, it might not necessarily have happened yet, but I think if you kind of look across the realm of most pro sports and stuff, right? Like hockey, baseball, basketball, right? They got a little bit of a minor league system mixed in there too, right? And it's, I think it it might not be like, maybe it's not there right now because obviously, the vast majority of players in Major League Rugby are, getting signed out of playing club level or high, that high performance kind of club programs, or straight out of college and whatnot. But it's like I do think it'll come a time where it's like you really are going to need something for like the guys that maybe have played a little college rugby, but maybe aren't quite good enough to play MLR. And it's like those guys need somewhere to go to. It's like the guys that just quite aren't at the MLR level need somewhere to play in order to help them get to that MLR level. And I think something like this, if you can take all the guys that have those dreams and aspirations of playing high performance rugby, put them into an environment with a bunch of other people that want to play high performance rugby, elite level. I think it could be incredibly beneficial to them. I like that it doesn't conflict with like the rest of the actual BC season. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's a good time frame, it's a good window to do it in. It's nice to include like the Pacific Pride and like the
Hmm.
schools in it as well. And because that was another thing that we were talking about earlier was, with obviously now Canadians are included in the MLR draft, which is brilliant. But also the fact that, if these guys are always going to be draft eligible, man, like that's going to be like people are going to want to watch and compare the level that these guys are playing at, right?
Hmm.
And, if you can kind of start, did they say anything about streaming games? I haven't been able to find anything. Do you have anything on that, Stu?
So I have a press release done from Thunderbirds Rugby, and there doesn't seem to be anything announced yet. I know that I've seen on Twitter that Curry Hitchborn has said they've been trying to get something sorted. It may be a just case of streaming the games through Facebook or YouTube. I don't know
That's
if
fine. That's all you
anything's.
need. Well, I'm not
Yeah.
expecting a broadcast deal.
Oh,
But
absolutely not. But
yeah.
well, I think that's what they were
Actually, could you
trying
imagine
to
that
get.
this is on TSN with the Canada national team can't be? Do you imagine that scenario?
Well, I mean, hey, rugby's rugby. I'm not going to be.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be turning my nose up if
Mm.
the Coastal Cup is
This
on
ends up
TSN.
on Sportsnet, makes TSN and Rugby Canada upset.
Probably. So a bit more information about the competition. Eddie Evans, Canadian rugby legend, will be the commissioner. Evans has 50 caps with the Canadian 15 side. He's played in 3 World Cups and has played 11 seasons of pro rugby, including 10 in Japan. Since retiring and before becoming commissioner, he's worked on a number of Canadian-based companies. He's also the founder and owner of Extreme Sports Gear. And he said the Coastal Cup will provide BC-based players with a competitive, well-organized, structured competition that will bring together hard-working and like-minded rugby-focused players. The bottom line is we want to get our BC players playing more rugby, especially at the higher levels. It is important for the development of rugby in our province as well as our country. Historically and traditionally, BC has been the hotbed of Canadian rugby, and we need to get back to that dominance. And is in like obviously being Johnny Foreigner, the most knowledge I have about Canadian rugby is that if you want to play rugby, the attitude has always been you need to be in BC, you need to be in Vancouver, you need to be in Victoria, you need to go to one of these schools. I mean, even when
I think
listening
that's
to
definitely changed in recent years, but
it has changed in recent, but
once
obviously
upon it, I think
the old guard would have said
I was just
all that.
yeah, that's definitely. I think is it the 95? No, I think the 91 World Cup team that went to the quarterfinal and lost to New Zealand in a time where that happened.
Yeah.
But I think Al Sharon was the only guy not from BC on that roster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of an interesting stat to kind of look at. But like, it is nice to see that it's not just one province dominating anymore. Obviously Ontario has, pulled ahead, and the Ontario Blues were the dominant team in the CRC for quite some time too. Right. So it kind of has shifted. That being said, it's cool to see this competition, kind of, maybe can kind of strike a fire back under BC Rugby a little bit. And I do hope they find a way to stream it or something. I want to watch. I'm curious to watch them. Like, I definitely want to watch. I definitely
even highlights. I'm just fine with that.
Well, like, and when I say stream to, like, I don't even necessarily, like, even if it's not live, but just like high performance, right?
Yeah.
You're filming these.
Yeah.
It's high performance.
Yeah,
you're filming them. Yeah, it's high performance. You're filming them. For like game film purposes and coaching and stuff. You're filming them. Just put the games on YouTube or something. Like,
okay,
right?
All right, Derek.
That's kind of my take on that.
All right, Derek. I have a quick question for you, and this is based only on names. Which team are you backing?
Only based on names?
Yeah.
So basically, which team has the best name?
So yeah, I'm basically telling you to pick a team now that you will be backing to be the inaugural Coastal Cup winners. Who do you think it's going to be?
Oh man, I mean, I guess like the Thunderbirds have always kind of, but like just based on the name, like I'm just picking coolest name.
Well, based on as minimal information as I'm not allowing you to look at any of the rosters. I'm not allowing you to look at any of the coaches. You just got to pick a team. Who are you going to go with?
Oh man, wow, that's what a weird. Okay, what a weird question. You know what? Actually, kind of looking at this, there's some great team names in this league.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vancouver Island Crimson Tide, that's cool. Vancouver Wave is also cool, but not as cool as Crimson Tide, so let's eliminate them. Van East Rugby, not as cool as Crimson Tide. Pacific Pride, you'd hope that they win a couple of games because they're a national team development program. Thunderbirds, Vikes, and Spartans are all really cool names. Spartans got 300, so I mean, they already have something. I don't know. Thunderbird, Crimson Tide. I think Crimson Tide's the coolest name on here. So if you just want to have me that, I feel like the Thunderbirds are probably the team that might be favored to win this, though. But it's interesting. Coolest name, I think I'm going Crimson Tide, especially since it's Vancouver Island Crimson Tide. It just sounds cool.
Yeah. So what I was meaning is in like without going in too deep into any of like the teams, is like who would you pick? Just
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds.
Yeah. Say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Without going in too deeply, yeah, Thunderbirds.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing, as in, because I'm kind of torn, because I agree with you, obviously, like Thunderbirds, historic rugby program. Obviously,
I thought you meant like which team has like the best name.
That was my fault. I should have been more thorough in what.
This is why we need Dan back. The more clear wording on questions.
Anyways, obviously led by Curry Hitchborn as well. A man who, even from just listening on the podcast, definitely knows and passionate about rugby.
That's the biggest reason why I'm picking the Thunderbirds. Those we've had more Thunderbirds on the podcast than anybody else from these teams.
And just to be different, and so it's not just like we're both winners or both losers. I'm gonna put my faith in the youngsters. I'm gonna go with the Pacific Pride. Obviously, because not only do they have the professional backing, they also may have a former Thunderbirds players. I mean, obviously they've had players like Josh Thiel, Brock Webster, Siaki Vikilani, Michael Smith, who
they should have good players to the national team development program.
Exactly, they should. That's why I'm saying they should win. But then
I was going to say, yeah, it's almost you might feel bad if they don't, to be honest.
Yeah, and as well as that, as in like I think that. Like, because if you say, it's just going to be 3 university sides and 4 like semi-pro sides, I think it would be between the 4 semi-pro. But obviously, the inclusion of those high-performance training, I think, will pay dividends and keep everyone on like even footing.
Footing.
Also evil. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if anyone of these coaches have a twirling mustache or anything.
I tried to find it. Were you more successful? Do they have like, I know like Vancouver or Van East Rugby's Instagram account has been pretty active with kind of putting the guys that they have signed. Like, have you I mean, UBC, the Vic, UVic, and TWU kind of like that's just the school team or whatever. But like, have you seen rosters for like the Tide Wave? Like, have you
Uh,
seen
Not really. I
Tide?
do have like a bit of information. So, for example, the Wave will be captained by Neil Courtney, who is a prop for Capilano Rugby Club and a former member of the Thunderbirds. Um,
The Thunderbirds just feed all the other teams, anyways.
the Crimson Tide will be joined by Sean White, but I believe that's only in like the coaching side, not
Mm.
the player side. You know what? We're saying this by the time this episode gets released, they'll have released the entire rosters of each team. So,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. I mean,
uh,
yeah, regardless of who wins and stuff, like I'm excited for it. I hope it does well.
and like we're saying, we hope that there's going to be some way that us fans that are not in British Columbia, never mind Vancouver or Vancouver Island, will be able to watch this. All right, we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of quickfire MLR news. So, LA fans are certainly very happy this week. Obviously, Adam Ashley Cooper retired from playing professional rugby, but he is now joining LA again, this time in a coaching role. He is to become the senior assistant coach. He will be underneath Stephen Hoyles, who was the assistant coach this season,
Yeah.
who has himself been promoted. And obviously, I guess playing like coaching the guys you played with even, or played against if you're in a competition for certain roles. But yeah, he'll continue as mentor the club's emerging breed of American backs as well. And Ashley Cooper had this today. This is a really exciting opportunity at the Giltinis to implement some of the ideas and tricks I've stored in my rugby notebook over a long career. Definitely a long career. Everything has aligned. Last season with the Giltinis really was the most enjoyable 12 months of my rugby career in terms of the team culture we built and the team we had together as the players coming on all over the world. I know Halsey and the general manager, Adam Frey, are working really, really hard to sustain that standard, keeping the really competitive environment of hard work and fun that made the Giltinis click really appeals to me too. So, yeah, obviously I've made allusions to like having the head coach change, and some of the guys from Gordon who came over with him may not be there next year out. Nothing has been announced as of yet, although again, knowing our luck, it'll be announced as soon as we finish recording. But you know, he's played 121 tests, 4 World Cups, won trophies for Australia, Japan, and now in the USA as well. And he calls it a transition rather than a retirement, because we all know rugby players never really retire, which I think is fair. Fear is. I keep saying fear for some reason.
Fear and evil just randomly slipping out of your mouth here, man.
Yeah, and,
I think this is super cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like it's cool that not only that he played, but it's like you love. I think you love to see some of those big name guys making like the multi-year commitments, even if it is as a coach. I mean, as a coach is probably just as good from when it's Adam Ashley Cooper, right?
Yeah, even better because you're not getting hit every Saturday.
I mean, yeah, for him personally,
Yeah.
yeah, it might be nice, yeah. But it's like it's cool to see guys like Rob Shaw that sign multi-year deals and stuff, right? Like some of the big name players from around the world that are coming over here, are a lot of them do seem like they are interested in sticking around long term, right? And instead of kind of being like one and done, just sort of, kind of like a couple of guys I feel like have kind of done that. But it's like I love seeing, Adam Ashley Cooper, Rob Shaw guys, and like a guy like Ben Foden, I think is like the perfect example too, like someone that's stuck around for for the long haul, or is genuinely seems interested in helping grow the game in North America. So it's I'm excited that he's sticking around with the team, and we'll see how he does as a coach. Might be a little bit different for him. Who knows?
There is something interesting in the last line of the press release. We say Ashley Cooper, his coaching will come to the fore when the whole squad gathers in November. So if we say like the whole squad is going to be there in November, does that mean the whole squad will be announced in November? And is this just LA, or will this be for the entire MLR teams,
probably
which gives me the indication that next season will start in like January or February, and hopefully be concluded in full by the time of the summer internationals.
I mean, speculating based on that, I think I think that's what the league wants. I think the league wants the full season. In all honesty, like, you know, it had to be done this year, but like, I don't think if you're like the marketing, just from a business standpoint, marketing thing, I don't think you want your best players missing at the most important part of the season.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. Like, just from, you know, I mean, it maybe it doesn't hurt competitively as much, or I mean, you know, depending on the rosters, it hurts some teams more than others. But, you know, I don't think, you know, I don't think you want your best guys missing for like some of like the biggest games of the season, right? So I think you want to get that done, and I think, as you said, as we've kind of said, it's like I think the only reason that it was this late is because they COVID, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, it's going to be,
and I think it's also they didn't know if there would be tests in the summer. So
and I mean, November, December has been a time where teams have started training camps.
That is true,
right? So, you probably want to get on that, right? You do a little bit of camp, take a little bit of a break before Christmas, come back, and then, you know, you're in full high gear until the season starts, right? So, you know, hopefully that's kind of a timeline that we're kind of looking at. But
okay, well, from the new boys of 2021 to the new boys of 2022, we have the announcement from Dallas Jackals of 2 signings so far. The first is Chris Pennell, a fullback who has played with Worcester Warriors since his debut in 2007. So this is a legend of the Premiership. He represented England in the under-19s, and he's just been a stalwart for 6 ways. He has made over 200 appearances. I believe, I'm just trying to get the exact number, but over 250 appearances, which he made in February 2021. He scored his 400th point and is the all-time point scorer for the Warriors as well. And and obviously when you're there that long, you get named captain. He's been vice captain as well. He's been rewarded as the Premiership Player of the Season for 2013-14. He toured with England in New Zealand in 2014 as well. And he's also played against the Crusaders in New Zealand as well, becoming the first Type 1 diabetic to score a try for England.
That's a fascinating stat.
Yeah, he's also had his testimonial year as Six Ways Stadium as well, back in 2018-2019. And so obviously he's now left his home at Six Ways. And when asked why he pursued MLR, Pennell says, "I have an eye on MLR since its launch. It's only a matter of time until the USA becomes a powerhouse in the international game, and a strong domestic league will be the supportive backbone to years of success on the world stage. The thought of contributing to that in the formative years captivates me, and I truly believe there are some incredible times ahead for the game, especially for the Jackals and rugby in Dallas." So this seems to be the same line of thinking as Ben Foden as well, is like you want to be one of the guys that's there at the start who can help formulate this new league coming up. And, he's absolutely right. Obviously having what will be 12 teams in the United States by the time he starts playing for the Jackals means that there's more Americans playing, going to improve them. It's going to therefore have a knock-on effect for the Eagles as well. From a Canadian perspective, hopefully not too much of a positive knock-on, but we'll take what we can get. But he's not the only signing that's been announced. Also announced has been Charlie McKill, comes to Dallas as well. Scottish-born, Australian raised is how he's described. 26 years old. He played for Watsonia. He moved to Queensland when he was 9 years old. And he's been playing for the Australian school system as well. He's represented Sunshine Coast and Queensland Coast on the pitch before moving back to the UK. Let's see. He's played in Sevens as well. He received a call up to the Scotland Sevens squad in 2018, and he even won the famous Melrose Sevens with Sevenside Watsonians. before moving back to Australia in 2019 to play for the Waratah Rats. And that is where he has been for the time. So, he's competed in the Shooter Shield, Semi-Pro League out of Sydney, Australia. So experienced international player. This is what the Jackals GM Elaine Vazzi said. Charlie is a dynamic, high-tempo back row who is comfortable on the ball and shows a real hunger off it. He has a skill set and work ethic that has seen him represent Scotland Sevens and feature in Samurai Sevens international sides. Still only 25 years old, Charlie's passion to raise the tempo of the game and support the growth of it in Dallas was so evident in our conversations. So, we've seen some Scottish Sevens players come in for MLR sides already, and they've had a very positive impact. Dougie 5. So, here's home for Moral Satan. And again, LA flair. And by that, I mean Australian flair as well. So,
yeah, I got nothing to add to this other than Charlie McKill is an all-time great name.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
I saw that USA Rugby is now selling Sevens jerseys with the players' names on the back.
Yeah.
Which I think is great, right? Gets you so you can go pick up a Carlin Isles or a Perry Baker or a Danny Barrett jersey, which I think is awesome. This gentleman here, Mr. McKill, is the reason why MLR teams need to be doing this. Yeah. I don't really necessarily want a Jackals jersey, but I would get a jersey that says McKill on the back because I think that's amazing. So Dallas, last names, back of jerseys, do it. Sell them though, because I wouldn't mind it. McKill sounds like one of a joke action hero that in like a Simpsons sketch.
Yeah, Charlie McKill.
Yeah,
exactly. Pacifist.
Yeah, has to fight that fake Schwarzenegger guy from The Simpsons.
Renier Wolfcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're only at the. No problem. We're only at the start of silly season, as it's known in Formula One, or signing season, I believe is the more accurate term. We've had 9 names for Toronto. We're getting we've obviously had, I think it's now 5 names, sorry, for the Jackals. And we'll be hoping to see many more in the weeks to come. But I believe that we'll call it a night there. Thank you so much for listening or watching. If you'd like to hear any more of our podcasts, you can find them on Spotify or on YouTube at Rouge Rugby. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Derek, do you have any of your socials you'd like to mention?
No, I mean, all the Rouge Rugby stuff you can find there. My personal ones, at Brissette the Jet, it's the same across every single social media platform. So Brissette the Jet, and it's on anything. Pretty easy to find me that way.
Okay, and you can find me on Twitter, H4RDMAN, so Hardman. Or you can follow my rugby Twitter account, which is hard_rugby. But anyway, thank you for joining me, Derek, and thank you for listening or watching, and we hope to see you next time.